Okay, welcome to today's episode of Whistleblower or Shower. You are on Beyond the Bridge. This channel attempts to break through all of the bullshit, essentially, and determine whether or not the people we are talking about on this stream are giving legitimate, real information, or if they're just making stuff up based on what little evidence that they have. Today's episode, I've got the Shawn Ryan interview of Eric Hecker. This particular interview I was very interested in seeing, as I am from New Zealand and I was in Christchurch during the 2011 earthquake that Mr. Hecker talks about in this particular interview. So let's go without further ado and see whether or not this guy is a whistleblower or a shower. Cool, let's go.
Back to the UFO Whistleblower Marathon. This is part 3 of the 3-part series. Remember, all of these gentlemen have testified in front of Congress under oath. Today we have Eric Hecker, who is a firefighter.
I just want to say one thing straight off the bat, that I do not believe that having testified in front of Congress makes you any more or less legitimate. I do think that anyone that is testifying in front of Congress believes what they are saying, but it doesn't necessarily mean that what they are saying is true. Anyway, let's continue.
Contractor for Raytheon, which is a military-industrial complex company. And he was in Antarctica at a Raytheon facility and says that Raytheon has the technology to produce earthquakes all throughout the planet.
Possibly.
If you like what you see, please like, subscribe, and comment. Go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, and you content creators out there, seeing you all, taking our content, love you all.
Sorry about this. There you go.
You are the only testimony that I did not get to hear at the conference. I had a flight, and the conference went way over time, and so this is totally fresh to me right now, and definitely fresh to the audience. But just a little intro on you. So you were a contractor for Raytheon, how would you describe Raytheon?
I would say that Raytheon is a military-industrial contractor that normally is making weapons and targeting systems for the military, and oddly enough had a contract to provide JANO services at the South Pole Station.
Interesting. From 2010 to 2011, you were a tradesman and firefighter in the South Pole. Antarctica as a contractor for Raytheon. You spent 366 continuous days at the South Pole. You were experimented on as a child and trained to be a remote viewer, correct, through a program called Stargate Project. Submarine service in the Navy, plumber for the wealthy elite on Long Island prior to Raytheon, and experience with UFOs.
Yes.
You're a whistleblower for the benefit of humanity.
So either A, the stuff that he experienced as a kid, what they were experimenting on him on, obviously didn't make his life anything overly different from regular everyday people, if he ended up just being essentially a janitor handyman person at Raytheon. But I mean, I don't doubt the fact that he was in Antarctica. So yeah, let's continue.
Why are you blowing the whistle now?
I'm blowing the whistle because I'm obliged to. I don't know anybody that's walked a similar path to me in life.
What's that?
I'm blowing the whistle because I'm obliged to.
They just had a little bit of audio mixing issue there where he repeated the question at the same time as he was talking, but I'm assuming that's just something done in post. I have heard this interview, just the audio format, because I am on Shawn Ryan's Patreon. I haven't seen the video though.
Anybody that's walked a similar path to me in life, so it's necessary information that gets out there. I wish that I could be relieved of the task, but until I can find someone that can properly handle this information, I have to be on point for it.
Right Roger that. Well, just like everybody else, we always start off with a gift. 50 states, I don't know. Raytheon Technologies Corporation.
I really don't know if I buy that he is waiting for someone else to pick up the mantle and do this job for him. It doesn't really seem like it's a thing that he feels like is ruining his life, as you'll see later on.
Raytheon is...
Just the other two whistleblowers, they very much had this thing going where they didn't like what was happening to them as a result of them being whistleblowers, where they were scared for their lives, their safety, their family's safety, etc. And one of the other whistleblowers has had assassination attempts on him, and then the other person has just had stuff where he's fearing for his life. I'm also going to change the playback speed to 1.25 because I'm pretty sure we can all follow along, and it means we can just get to the good stuff quicker.
It's an aerospace company that provides advanced systems and services for commercial, military, and government customers worldwide. Probed for corruption in government contracting since 1980s. You were in the South Pole from 2010 to 2011. Let's talk about what you were doing down there.
Got it.
What were you doing down there?
I was contracted for the summer season as a plumber. I did well enough in my summer season to garner a winter contract as well, which got me my full year's stay. I was also tasked with being a firefighter. I was a lead on the firefighting team, and because of that dual role capacity, I physically held a key that opened every single door in the facility. I had access to every compartment they manufactured. That was a rare position to be in.
What are you blowing the whistle on?
That there are technologies at the South Pole Station that people can't even consider that exist on this planet.
Like what?
Directed energy weapon systems is something that people need to get in their vocabulary fast. The ice cube neutrino detector is not simply a passive listening device as presented for the science that they're claiming it to be.
Look at his hands. At this point in the interview with the other two fellas, when they're starting to tell their stories, their hands are going all over the place, telling it the stuff like they're saying, yeah, and then we walk down the hallway, and then there's like a big building or not. Let's just see how his hands go. But yeah, I don't doubt that it is in the Arctic, but so far the rest of the stuff doesn't sound legitimate.
They do. It also has the capacity to transmit. There are embedded in the...
Try and have a legitimate conversation with anyone in life, and with the exception of like when you are lying, making shit up, and see how much your hands move. I think you'll find that they are going to move a substantial amount. Yeah, I've never watched anyone sit so still.
Ice, what are called digital optical modules, DOMs. They're about the size of a basketball. The array embedded in the ice is 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. It is the world's largest telescope, and now because we have proven that it can transmit, it's the world's largest directed energy weapon system. It is responsible for the earthquakes in Christchurch, New Zealand in 2011 on the front end of the year.
How do you know for a fact that was responsible for that?
Because I was present and I have gone over this with the pertinent people, but I will not be releasing their names.
Okay.
But I was on the team, let's just say, and I've confirmed this.
Well,
I've provided documentation from the actual manufacturer specs. So this unit was constructed, operated, and maintained by the University of Wisconsin, and just like every other device on the planet, whether you're driving an M1 Abrams tank or operating the ice cube neutrino detector, there's operator's manuals that tell you how things work. Right there in that information, free for everybody to find. I found it myself. I was directed to find it, and I'll put it that way, and release this information. And it states very clearly that each one of these DOMs can transmit at 2,047 volts each. So these are currently the facts of life.
How do you know?
Once again, just complete sit still, do absolutely bloody nothing. And also, his proof is that firstly he was there, and then actually he was part of the team, and then actually it was that he got documentation that shows how these devices work. I mean, so far there's just been absolutely nothing other than him just saying what he believes to be the case, not anything tangible or anything that feels like anything.
how do you? I guess what I'm asking is, how did it even come to your attention that this triggered an earthquake? If you're at the South Pole and New Zealand had an earthquake, I mean, how did you know it came from the South Pole?
Without divulging names.
Without divulging names.
I could only say that it was communicated to me from team members.
What kind of an answer is that? Without divulging names? What?
That were present.
Non-answer.
At the time that they were aware. And since that time...
at the immediate, like the same day?
Oh, absolutely. It was understood.
Well, what was said?
That we accidentally hit Christchurch, New Zealand twice when they were trying to fire up this weapon for the first time. That it was friendly fire. It was not on purpose, but it occurred. That the system is designed for that.
So they accidentally hit Christchurch, New Zealand, when they were testing the weapon. Were they going to test it outside of? I mean, in my view, testing an earthquake weapon should just be not a thing that you do. I mean, fear. Christchurch, New Zealand, populous area. I would also be interested to know as to how you can accidentally hit a particular city. Like, did someone put in the wrong coordinates or what?
And it was just friendly fire.
So this is a telescope. That sounds like a. Is it a telescope?
Absolutely, it is. It is a neutrino detector for sure. It can accomplish its primary purpose. It can also transmit and then provide a multifaceted platform for directed energy weapons systems.
Do you have any idea how the earthquake was initiated?
From misfiring the system.
Where
were they targeting?
Yes.
I don't know.
Does it go into the earth? Does it go into the atmosphere?
It can definitely go through the earth. I would consider that it might be able to do stuff in the atmosphere. I haven't heard that statement laid at his feet, but I wouldn't put it past it. I don't want to try to limit the functions of this device by my imagination or experience. I believe that's one of the problems with directed energy weapons is they are not like standard weapons of old where you have a gun and a particular caliber bullet, you pull the trigger and it does one thing. These platforms are way more complex than that. They do a lot of things.
What else do they do?
Excuse me. This system,
Brilliant. 9 minutes in and he finally moves his hand because he starts to cough.
In regards to the neutrinos, it detects the neutrinos that are apparently coming off of the new exotic propulsion systems for either off-world UFOs or reverse engineered stuff on our planet.
What is neutrino?
Neutrino is a near massless particle that goes at, close, or beyond the speed of light. It is so small that it can pass between the electron shell and the nucleus of pretty much every atom on the planet. And the capacity of being detected at the South Pole Station, when the neutrino impacts the nucleus of the water molecule of the ice in the glaciers at the pole, a reaction occurs. The nucleus and the neutrino become destroyed.
There we go. They become destroyed. See, that's what I'm talking about. Using your hands to do something. I believe that he is being honest with his account of the science. Yeah, in fact, I do know about a little bit about neutrinos and how they interact with computers, and they can cause a thing called bit flips, where they cause the binary patterns to change, which can cause catastrophic issues if not accounted for in computing. That's one of the reasons why airplanes and whatnot have 8+ computers all simultaneously running the calculations, so that if one of them gets bit flipped and then causes a catastrophic malfunction in their autopilots, then the other 7 will automatically correct, because it will say, hey, this computer's showing something weird, and then it checks it against the rest of the computers to see whether or not they are whether or not the 8th computer is correct or not. So yeah, I do believe that he has actually researched his information on neutrinos and how they interact with matter. As to whether or not the rest of the information is accurate, though, is another story.
Muon is created and ejected, and a blue flash of light known as Cherenkov radiation flashes in the ice, and that's what the DOMs, digital optical modules, are detecting. That's their primary purpose as presented. Now, whether that neutrino comes from a quasar out in space or a exotic propelled engine off of vehicles that aren't being discussed contemporarily, it detects it, thus making it basically an air traffic control center for all.
I love how Shawn doesn't automatically say stuff. He continues allowing the person to speak. When you create that little bit of awkward silence in between, then the other person feels obligated to continue talking. It's a really good way to do interviews, because it allows you to get the person to give all of the information that they have. And yeah, Shawn does it phenomenally.
Non-discussed vehicles on this planet. So just like we have all the other air traffic on the planet, and it's being completely observed and attended to, there's just another level of craft on this planet and another level of air traffic control tower that exists. This is that facility.
But the thing that really differentiates us is that we're not just an investment company.
Back to tracking neutrinos. What is that? Why are they tracking those?
Oh, for the purposes of science, they're claiming that there's a lot to be ascertained by understanding the difference between low power and high power neutrino ejections.
You know what? Like, all of this here sounds like legitimate information. I do believe, without a doubt, he went down to the Antarctica, to do plumbing and firefighting, and he got taught this information. This here all sounds like legitimate information. Of course, he's putting it out there as this is the cover-up version. However, as you will see and have seen so far, the information that he knows to be true, he is very expressive about and very good at describing it in detail. And then when he gets to the scary stuff, the earthquake machines and whatnot, you'll find that his level of detail just completely disappears. His expressiveness completely disappears.
From cosmic occurrences. It's about that big. This is what they spend their time.
Even the whole cosmic occurrences, that is a very accurate hand gesture where he's going, they're not quite sure. They're not quite sure what's going on. However, when he goes, the earthquake machine, and he's like, it could be an earthquake machine. Like, that would make more sense. But when he's sort of jilted and stilted and whatnot, I don't like the guy.
Let's talk about what else do they do?
The device is also...
I don't think Shawn likes the guy either.
For faster than light communications. Quantum entangled communications at great distance. And I guess it was the late 80s or early 90s, Gary McKinnon hacked NASA. And he found a list of the off-world space fleet and the captains of the ships respectively. We have a fleet out there. If we have a fleet out there, we need to communicate with them. This is that facility.
Can you explain quantum entanglement communications?
Yes, I don't think most people understand what I'm about to say anyway, but I will.
We have an off-world fleet out there. Not we have an off-world fleet out there. Oh.
The way quantum entanglement works is that you can take two particles, quantum entangle them, and then take those two particles and move them at any distance in the cosmos. And let's just say, for example, if you quantum entangle two electrons and you have them spinning in the same direction, and then you take one of those electrons and you shoot that thing out 100,000 light years.
There's actually a further idea with quantum entanglement, which is that any particle can be entangled to literally any particle out there, and as a result, you don't actually need to shoot a particle away. You can entangle things that are already infinite distances apart. Obviously when you get down to the quantum level, everything gets a little bit weird and wacky, but it looks like he does actually have a fairly good grasp on the accepted science at the moment of these topics. So yeah,
from the original. If you then rotate the spin on the one electron, if you modify so that its spin changes, the quantum entangled electron at any distance will simultaneously
I will tell you one thing. The information that he's giving here right now is almost verbatim to literally any quantum entanglement video that you will find on YouTube, and you can you can tell that he understands what he's talking about in this particular part here.
No time switch its rotation also because they're quantum entangled. So these communication systems are taking advantage of this aspect of quantum mechanics that most people can't wrap their heads around. And this is what they're utilizing. It's just the new level of science that affords us the ability to communicate at any distance instantaneously.
I've heard about this. I've tried to dig into it, and it's hard to understand.
It is hard to understand. It would be my best way to put it is that when electricity first came out, it was very hard for a lot of people to understand what Nikola Tesla was getting at. But everyone was using it before they even understood it. And this is just where we are right now. It's just a new technology. It's a new conversation. People don't have to understand it yet. They just have to realize it's real.
What other kind of things can this?
Oh boy. Voice to skull technology. This is also in the foray of directed energy weapons.
What is that?
The ability to, let's just say, throw your voice into your head, or my voice into my head, or allowing algorithms that now they can blanket a whole geographical area, and they can make everybody change their thoughts. They can, I use the term intrusive thoughts. Back to that fork in the road analogy. If you find yourself where you have to make a decision about something, next thing you know, you catch yourself kind of having an argument in your head with your own voices. Well, the ability to add another one of your voices in there, but have it controlled by somebody else's microphone, so to say, is a very powerful tool.
Like you're having two voices going on. Oh, wait, no. The only part that you can do is the part that is accepted science.
And I think this is a weapon of war that we are seeing happen to everyone around us. The Department of Defense recently started initiating protocols for their employees, their agents, to discuss Havana syndrome-like symptoms. And on that list is that their agents are hearing voices in their head. And this is what they're getting at. This is that technology that, you know, next thing you know, you're trying to make a decision, but there's another Shawn in your head that now is actually somebody else's control. And through the manipulation of that voice, they can now push you. Just like we have, you know, the cell phones are weaponized now, the social media platforms, and they can engage with an algorithm, and they know that they can push you in a direction by repetitive information being displayed in front of you, similar to the Takistoscope in grammar school, that they can learn your system, and they can learn to manipulate it on a personalized level by just assessing you, what the things are that you're interested in, what are your weak points, what's the crack in the dam, what's the angle of attack, and it's through repetition and access. These are simply electromagnetic impulses in your head. It's not that they can't be read, it's not that they can't be copied, and it's not that they can't be just replayed with somebody else's control. I mean, I could get a voice changing thing and I could sound like you if I wanted to. I could call you on the phone, I could call your loved ones, and I could pretend I'm Shawn. They can do that for you in your own head.
If you're a business owner and you're hiring right now,
Of this right, you're fleeing oppression. It's complicated, like
Other company figured it out first. This corporation.
how are you finding all of this out?
Years of research. The McDonald's Corporation just had
there we go. So the way he has all of his information is years of research.
ad come out a few months ago that they're looking into research and development in a technology that will afford them the ability to pump their commercials into your brain while you're sleeping. You think that they figured this out, or some other company figured it out first? You think if they're going to have this available to them next year, you think that there weren't agencies that have been wielding this for a decade or so?
You're 100. Is there any? Where can I read about this?
It's immediately available on the internet that McDonald's put this out there. McDonald's Corporation is looking into putting commercials into our brains while we're sleeping.
And that's, we can look that up.
Absolutely.
McDonald's Corporation a few months ago. So this podcast came out on the, let's just have a quick look. Released on YouTube 2 days ago, so the 22nd of July. Let's have a look. Oh, the date, 11th of June 2021. I've also looked into these articles, and so what the articles explain is that they get you to listen to a particular audio thing before you go to sleep, and then they get you to listen to a 8-hour audio while you're sleeping. This is not some magical beam from outer space coming in, or from the Arctic, then beaming into your brain to do things. This is you yourself playing something yourself that has the intended purpose of manipulating your actions. Do I believe that these things are possible, where you can play an audio and manipulate your actions? Absolutely. I listen to binaural beats every single night to go to sleep, and I find them incredibly useful at changing my brainwave patterns to help me go to sleep more quickly and have a better sleep overall. But once again, the level of sophistication and whatnot that Mr. Hecker seems to think that these things can do is quite incredible. I think it's a little bit fear-mongery.
I can look that up.
Understood.
I've heard of that.
Understood. But now imagine if they can do that next year.
Just give me a moment. Just going to pause for a brief tick. Oh, we are back. Give me just a tick. Sweet.
Who's been doing it for the last decade or so?
I'm with you.
Right?
100% with you.
So now when we look around the world and we see everybody acting the way that they are acting, let's consider that these intrusive thoughts have already been present. What do we do about this? These are the weapons of war contemporarily. It's very unfortunate, but it used to be that war was a bit more noble. When we selected people, we put them in uniforms, we sent them over there to the battlefield, and we said, fight for us. And effectively, that would have been an act of attrition of each nation's resources until there was a victor. Now, unfortunately, they've circumnavigated the battlefield. Nobody's dressed in uniforms anymore, and the front line is every neighborhood that we're in. And the infrastructure is still under attack. It's just that now the average mortgage payer is in the line of fire. The list of Havana syndrome-like symptoms, which my South Pole crew and many South Pole crews are suffering, that other agencies are suffering, if people pay really close attention, they're going to notice that these symptoms are prevalent in the general population as well.
How close of an attention do we really have to pay, Mr. Hecker? Is it potentially the case that these so-called symptoms are just natural phenomena, psychosomatic symptoms that when you do your fear-mongering, people start to buy into your particular brand of fear, and anything that they can't instantly explain, they put it out there as being these weapons, and then they themselves actually create the very thing that you are claiming exists. Obviously not the actual weapon, but the whole fear-mongering, the whole putting intrusive stuff into your head, because it really sounds like you might be on the side of the people you're trying to take down.
Interesting. I interviewed a former CIA agent about this, who has Havana syndrome, and has been speaking out on it quite a bit. His name's Mark Polypernopoulos. But is there anything else going on down there? I mean, we just went through a lot of stuff here.
Yes, actually. There's a system known as ELF, extra low frequency. Is also a massive antenna that's embedded in the ice there. When I arrived to the facility as a tradesman and firefighter, I was read into how everything worked, because I needed for the safety of my crew to be able to battle fires and engage things appropriately. And at the onset, I was told that the ELF system is off. It's defunct. It's disabled. It is just sitting dead in the ice. But through my need to make an additional repair on something else and tracing back to a sub-panel, I was finding the circuit that I needed to lock out, tag out, and do all the safe repairs. But then I noticed that this other breaker that was supposed to be off was in the on position, and it was listed as the ELF. And I ran it up my chain. I said, what's going on here? I said, this is supposed to be off. I was told it's off now. And I was just given a hard, it's on. That was the end of my need to know. They didn't want to tell me anything else. You have identified the circuit that you need to work on. You have been informed that you can safely do your job. Carry on. So I did my job. I made the repair that I needed to on the circuit next to the circuit that I was now informed is duly on and operating. So the ELF is up and running, and that, again, is a multifaceted directed energy weapons platform.
Do you have pictures of any of this stuff?
Everything is a multifaceted directed energy weapon.
I have a lot of pictures of me in these facilities. They mostly just prove my presence.
If you hand those over, I'll display them on screen right now. If I can get them.
I can get you pictures before you present this to the world.
I would appreciate that. Let's talk about the clear air system called Aero.
Yes.
Commonly referred to as the no-fly zone.
Yes.
The idea of having one stream of income just didn't sit.
The ARO building, ARO, is the Atmospheric Research Observatory. It is listed on the chart, the one that I gave you as well, as a no-fly zone in the vaguest sense of the term at first glance. But as any pilot knows, there's always, fine print. So the no-fly zone, as listed at South Pole Station because of ARO, simply provides a limit to the ability for a plane to fly too low. It sets the floor at 8,000 feet. You can't fly below 8,000 feet. A lot of people like to try to claim that there's a hole at South Pole Station and there's a no-fly zone that protects from you flying in an area that'll see the hole. And that's just total shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
No-fly zone limits your ability to fly low, not high.
Mm-hmm.
So with that height available, you will see everything available to see, which is ice as far as the eye can see. There is no hole in the ice at the South Pole Station. There may be one somewhere else. I can't testify to the entirety of the continent. It's huge. All I can say is that when people are talking about there being a hole at the South Pole, they're full of crap. They don't know what they're talking about. They're taking something that they know very little about and just running with it. They say in other ways that, a little information is a dangerous thing, and that's what these people are doing, is they're operating off of very little information.
Wow, couldn't have summed it up better myself. That people hear a little bit of information and then they run with it. The most dangerous thing is giving people just a little bit of information. I think this is case in point with Eric Hecker here. That he went to the Arctic, he saw stuff that he doesn't understand because he is not a scientist, and so he's come back home and gone, I don't understand what these things are. Google, what is a neutrino ray detector? Third link down. Oh, it's an energy weapon? Oh my god. And then he goes in down the rabbit hole because, yeah, he hasn't witnessed or seen anything out of the ordinary, but he has created something extraordinary out of the lack of information that he has.
The Atmospheric Research Observatory, as I testified in DC, I witnessed myself in doing my standard rounds in the winter season at South Pole Station, that building would, with great regularity, have a very powerful green laser beam shooting out of it into the cosmos. I believe through
I don't doubt that.
located there, which is the chilled helium in a massive amount. It is chilled down to 4 degrees Kelvin in storage, which my understanding, this is something new that I'm learning about, it's called superfluids. Superfluids act very differently.
4 degrees Kelvin is 4 degrees above absolute zero.
Used for things called chemical lasers. Well, we had a superfluid and we had a laser. So I believe that what I'm learning on this is that it was probably a secondary means of long-range communication.
So we had one thing and we had another thing. And now I'm just going to assume something completely different.
And or another weapons platform. June 18th was my birthday, right after Dr. Greer's event of June 12th. On June 18th, the National Science Foundation website could have posted anything they wanted for a photograph. But on my birthday, I would say I got a gift from someone in the program because they posted a picture of the Harrow Building's green laser blasting into the cosmos, which verifies exactly what I saw.
Interesting. And you think that might be a communication device? How would they be communicating with the laser?
I don't understand the science of it. I just know that it exists. Okay, laser beam communication, direct line of sight, laser beam comms, microwave type comms. It exists.
Okay, so they have a faster than light neutrino communications device, but they also have a laser communications device. That does not make sense. Why would you use something that only operates at the speed of light when you've also got a device that does instantaneously?
You say a lot of the crew members from the South Pole are experiencing kind of symptoms. What are some of those symptoms?
They have mental degradation, troubles with their memory, fatigue, stuff like that.
Mental degradation, trouble with their memory, fatigue, like what pretty much all humans have. I mean, don't get me wrong. You could say that the reason everyone has that is because of these devices, but it's not a new phenomena. Sure, it's reported on more, but it's not a new phenomena. It's been a phenomena since the Industrial Revolution. So it's more likely that people have fucking shit tons of chemicals and other stuff that they are exposed to daily with their deodorants, with the pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals, and all sorts of different things. And that is what's causing these issues, not some secret base in Antarctica. Also, that's the other thing, is in Antarctica you are exposed to the most extreme conditions on Earth. I do a delivery run, and where I live it gets down to -8, -10 degrees, this is Celsius, at times. And I know if I go from being in the cold to being in a warm vehicle to being in the cold, being in a warm vehicle, cold, warm, my brain starts to get messed up very quickly, and these people will be experiencing that kind of sudden shift to another whole extreme quite frequently.
Skin issues.
Headaches?
Yes.
The Antarctica Treaty of 1959. An agreement signed by 12 nations in which the Antarctic continent was made demilitarized to be preserved for scientific research. What do you think about that?
I think it's a load of malarkey. And I'm going to throw a gentleman's name out there that I have worked with. He told me very specifically at the time that we communicated. He's going to die when he sees this video. I worked with a gentleman by the name of Aaron Bontrager. And he was also previously contracted by Raytheon Polar Services as a cook to work on a cat train that went across the ice. And he said,
There we have it, folks. Undeniable proof. The one person whose name he can mention was a cook. And he was a plumber, just to remind you. A plumber and a firefighter and a cook walk into the Antarctica. What happens next will blow your mind.
the express purpose for him, I should say, for that team, working for Raytheon, was they were searching for missile site locations.
Okay.
Correct. The whole idea of this being demilitarized is a load of baloney.
How do you think they're getting? How are they powering this facility?
I believe there's a secondary power source.
Absolute load of baloney. I know, because my chef friend who cooks with baloney told me so.
It's inside of the old pole that was built in 1957.
What do you mean the old pole?
The original pole, I should say, built in 1957. We refer to as old pole. There was other facilities that were manufactured, different stages of inhabitation of crew. So 1957 was the first one. It predates the Antarctic Treaty, which means that they could have had nuclear power there. I believe they did have nuclear power there, and that since then they may have maintained it, almost like a grandfather clause, or that they may have new, more exotic systems that are not in the legalese of the treaty.
Why do you think Antarctica is a no-fly zone?
Antarctica is not a no-fly zone.
Well, Arrow, commonly referred to as a no-fly zone. Why?
It's a misnomer. You can fly right over the no-fly zone. You just have to be higher than 8,000 feet.
Well, I'm asking why you have to be higher than 8,000.
Oh, because of the they're doing science on the cleanliness of the air, so they just don't want it tainted. Similarly, there's no land traffic allowed in that area. So you can take a snow machine. If I wanted to go visit the building to do my rounds, I could take a snow machine up to a certain point, and then I had to stop the snow machine and walk, because simply the exhaust gases from the machine would taint their sensors. So also, the only reason they're trying to block out vehicular activity is to keep the exhaust gases out of their sensors.
How do you get there?
I can't believe that someone like him, who has a conspiracy excuse for everything, is so on board with the logical reason why they have the height restriction for flying and the distance restriction for the vehicles. Because that's the thing, is like, if you hadn't been there and they said, oh, you know, it's because you don't want vehicles going that far on you, and, you know, planes have to be above this height because of the air quality and the purity of the area. Anyone that hasn't been there could quite easily come up with 1,001 conspiracies. He's obviously smart enough to realize that because he understands what's going on, that there is no conspiracy. It's just about cleanliness and purity for the sensors to detect whatever it is they're detecting. However, he's not smart enough to realize that the stuff that he doesn't understand, that he's now creating his reasons for, is just as illogical.
How do you get to Arrow?
Yeah.
It's within walking distance of the elevated station.
How do you fly into Antarctica?
You fly in with a Herc LC-130, Herc on skis, and you just come in from outside of that quadrant,
Okay.
or above 8,000 feet.
Okay. How much air traffic is going around there?
During the summer seasons, 24 hours of operation, they typically have a few Hercs on deck idling. Most of the time, a lot of fuel is brought in by Herc. Our waste is brought out by Herc when the airmen will allow themselves to be a flying garbage can, as they claim. But yeah, basically almost all operations and logistics were done by Herc. While we were there in my 2010 season, they had brought in their first fuel haul over land as kind of an experiment to the process, and it's my understanding that they call this a traverse, that they have since increased traverse activity to drag large fuel bladders across the ice to resupply the fuel that way, being more economic than doing it by Herc, and then affording that volume of Herc space that's not being utilized for fuel now can, of course, do other things. The flight operations are almost 24 hours a day during the summer season because nothing moves in the winter season, so everything has to occur in a certain window.
Okay. And back to the putting voices in people's heads.
I feel like Shawn Ryan is having a bit of a struggle with this interview, as it being the most boring.
For a reason. These modern technologies are bastardizations of ancient techniques. Way back in the day, they would call someone a magician who was adept at this skill. I could walk into the room and I would potentially have that skill set to put my thought in your head. It's just a technique. It's completely doable. But now we have people that are no longer going through these schools of nobility to learn to practice these things nicely. And we have evil people that are taking technologies and utilizing them. Because again, it's just simply electromagnetic impulses. They can be read, they can be used, they can be hijacked.
Infamy is basically
poor Shawn.
universe where
Hold up. Alright. Sup? Oh. Sorry about that. I had a friend popping in who didn't reveal that they were popping in. Actually, give me one moment. Give me another one moment. So it's about that. Hopefully you survived the waiting.
Anything that I'm missing that you want to bring to the public?
That's a great question. I want to emphasize that we are. It's just a technique. It's completely doable. But now we have people that are no longer going through these schools of nobility to learn to practice these things nicely. And we have evil people that are taking technologies and utilizing them. Because again, it's just simply electromagnetic impulses. They can be read, they can be used, they can be hijacked.
Eric, is there anything that I'm missing that you want to bring to the public?
That's a great question. I want to emphasize that we are currently in a state of war that people aren't realizing.
What is that?
These weapons are being wielded around us, against us. There are power players that are above nation states. Geographical boundaries and political parties mean very little to the wealthy elite on this planet. We're pawns, we're chattel. I am a person for the people. We, the people of this planet, deserve a better future than the one we are being presented. We've all, through our blood, sweat, and tears, we've invested here in the United States. We've invested our taxpayer dollars for these people to create weapon systems that they're using against us. It's a sin. It's illegal. It's a sin. It's immoral, and we have to do better for the future generations of this planet.
Are you worried for your safety?
No.
Why not?
I'm just simply beyond that. I don't really care what happens to me. I care about doing the right thing.
Do you think you're in danger?
I guess theoretically people don't like me doing what I'm doing.
He says firstly that he is beyond fear. Is, beyond it because, this is just too important. Then he goes, theoretically there might be people that don't like what I'm doing. No, you see, that's the thing, Mr. Hicker, is that with the other whistleblowers, specifically the two previous ones, DC Long and whatever the other guy's name was that Shawn interviewed, is they are scared for their safety because not theoretically people might not like what they're doing. People do not like what they are revealing because they are revealing actual stuff. When you have seen something that some kind of technology that you don't understand, that there's no NDAs or anything iffy about it, and then you create your own fucking thing, then yes, of course, people are going to not give a fuck what you have to say because you haven't revealed anything. You've just come up with theories, and then you're spouting them out everywhere. You've got a book, don't you, Mr. Hicker? Not saying that people shouldn't get paid money for revealing what they know, but the difference between yourself and the other whistleblowers is that you have a bit of a business out of it, where they don't. So I can't see anything about him having any kind of books or whatnot. But in any case, this guy has made quite a thing out of being a whistleblower, whereas the others, not so much.
I would say probably not.
Fair enough.
But work, if that's it, that's a lot of info in a short amount of time, and I really appreciate you coming here and inform us all. So, have you been approached by any media outlets?
I've been approached by a lot of people.
Really?
And I pretty much tell them to go scratch.
Why do you tell them that?
Because I can tell from the way that they approach me, they're not looking to do justice by what I'm saying. They're what I refer to as dissipators, people that are looking to waste my energy, divert it into the wrong direction. I'm very fortunate, and I would say blessed, to have met someone like yourself who seems to be on the up and going to fight the good fight on this stuff, to get to the actual brass tacks truth and present it to the world in an untainted capacity. There's a lot of bad things going on this planet. I'm sure that you've experienced it yourself firsthand, and you're aware that a lot of people don't know that these things are happening in the shadows. I want people to know what's really going on this planet so they can make educated decisions about what they have to do to protect themselves and their children.
Well, that's very noble of you. Man, I really appreciate it. I don't. It's a lot of info to process. It's going to take me a minute to come up with questions. And would you be willing to come back?
I would love to come back.
Let me digest this, and then we'll come up with a date and do a longer form interview. I got to wrap my head around this stuff.
Understood.
In the meantime, be safe. Thank you for coming out here, and it's an honor to meet you. Thanks.
My goodness, it'll be much better if they don't have a follow-up interview. All in all, I think that what Eric Hicker is doing isn't the worst thing in the world, because at least he is getting people into the topic, and then they'll get to see what else is out there regarding whistleblowers, because there is, without a doubt, stuff that is going on that the majority of people aren't privy to. He just doesn't come across as one of the people that knows any of that kind of information. But at very least, he's getting people interested in the topic. So, yeah, good for him, I guess. Let's have a look. For a subcontractor, this guy is an expert in quantum entanglement. Sometimes this whistleblower business feels like it's an actual psyop. Yeah, yep. I completely agree. This guy here sounds like he is part of the disinformation campaign. Imagine what the voice to skull technology can do on other applications, such as causing terrorism, mass shootings, and other events that are then blamed on the manipulated shooter alone and never on the tech. Yeah, fair enough. If the tech is actually what he says it is, then yeah, that idea is quite terrifying. Let's have a look. Anything else? My goodness. Many people think that this is the most disturbing, most out there of the interviews, and yeah, it is if the information is legitimate and true, but it just doesn't feel legitimate and true. If you take it just based on the words alone, then yes, this interview seems insane, it seems crazy. But if you then just take it based on the overall feel of the interview, then it just seems like an absolute load of rubbish, really. Let's get through those 5. My brother said to look up CERN. We live in New Zealand, and he knew that the Christchurch earthquake was man-made due to his research. Okay, I think CERN is related to what was being talked about in this episode. No, CERN is the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, not this here, but close enough. seems a lot of people love this particular story, which, I mean, yeah, if you like buying into bullshit and like fear mongering, then yeah, this here absolutely seems like the kind of show, kind of stream you would do. So yeah, anyway, that's all for today's episode. I believe that he is a whistle shower, not a whistleblower. I don't think that his particular information is going to go any further. Yeah, just seems like a person who discovered almost nothing of relevance and then just made it into a big old fucking conspiracy theory based on who knows what. Anyway, that's all from me.